Now, I need to take this to the next level. What happens if you're supporting somebody who's in addiction? Somebody who's making very harmful decisions that are hurting themselves and those they love. So addiction, and that can be drug and alcohol addiction, or that can be process addictions, gambling, sex addiction, or it can be cutting, eating disorders, all of those things where you just watch this person you love making decisions that are really hurting them or destroying their life. How do you support them? So let me tell you a story from early in my experience in this field. So after I came out of my sickness and got into this field, so I came out of my 7 very difficult years, got asked to come into this field, realized that all my life experiences had been preparing me for this, and I started working in this field. I started a Friday night, which is now what you're getting here on YouTube, that was just making all of this information open to the public. And so we had in-person meetings, and people would come and I would teach, and that was the Friday night. So I had friends who had been very supportive of me while I was sick, and they started coming to the Friday nights to support me. And one day they came to me and told me that they just found out their daughter was an alcoholic. And she was in her late teens at that time. But what was the really difficult part is when she would get really drunk, she would go on to one of the highest bridges in our city, and she would phone her parents, and then she would threaten to jump off the bridge and kill herself if they didn't come and give her money and take care of her. And every time they ran, drove down to that bridge, got her off the bridge, gave her money, took care of her. A little while later, they came to me and they were really mad. They were looking for supports. They were looking for helps. So they had sent their daughter to a treatment center, which hadn't worked. Then they heard that that treatment center had a program for parents. So they thought they'd take the program for parents, thinking that it would give them some magical tools to fix their daughter. But when they went to this program, they didn't like the advice that was given, because when they explained what was happening in their relationship with their daughter, the leaders of the program basically said, "You're part of the problem. You're enabling your daughter to continue in her addiction. Every time you run and take care of her and give her money, you're taking away her consequences." And so they came to me and they were so offended. And they went on and on about they did this because they loved their daughter so much. They only wanted to help her. They did not want her to kill herself. They could not live with that on their conscience. They had to rescue her each time because they loved her. And so they stopped going to that program. But thankfully, they kept coming to the Friday nights. And over the next couple of years, they continued to learn. They continued to do their own growth and work. Their daughter continued what she was doing. But finally, one day they came and they said, "We've made a decision. We realize that our fear of our daughter killing herself, which is a powerful fear, is causing us to be manipulated and run and do stuff that's actually keeping her in her addiction. And yes, we are part of the problem. So we are not going to do that anymore. We're going to have to trust her to God, the universe, whatever, but we can't keep playing this game. This is going to be one of the hardest things for us to do, but we have to do it. We can't control her. We can't fix her. There's no magic solution. We have to let go." That was hard, but they did it. And it wasn't too long after that their daughter went into a treatment center, got sober, and is still sober to this day. Now, not everybody, it works out a happy ending like that. I get that. But I want to tell you that story because to me, it illustrates some very important things. So let me go back to what are some of the normal things that go on in a parent's mind or in a loved one's mind when the person they love is struggling with very bad decisions that are hurting them, either addiction, eating, whatever. Usually they try to use logic. And it's like, why would a person do something that they know it's hurting themselves. That doesn't make sense. They know it's hurting themselves, then they'll stop doing it. So they must not realize that this is bad for them, that this is hurting them. They just need a proper explanation. They just need information. And so that's where a lot of parents go on the internet and they come up with all this information and they just try to convert their child, and they sit them down and they give them this long sermon of all the stuff their child needs to know, thinking that that is going to fix them. What they don't realize is you can't solve addiction just with information. The reason they're addicted is not because of lack of information. There's much deeper issues that are there. So then they go to the next thing. Then what are the possible reasons why they're doing this behavior? So they come up with 3. 1, must be a mental health issue. Must be something going on in their brain that they just need a medication to fix. Or they're born that way. So they're born with some gene that just takes them into addiction. So they look at that very medical kind of approach. Or secondly, they're just going through a bad time. If they get through this bad time and life gets easier, then they'll stop. So it's all the fault of their circumstances right now. Or it's because of their friends. They just got in with a bad crowd who are a bad influence on them. If I could just get them away from all those bad people, then they'll stop. So then they go, what are they saying is the cure? The medical model, they need a medication. They need to go to a counselor who's just going to set them straight and fix them. Or we need to monitor them constantly so they don't hang around with those friends, so they don't do those activities. So we just need to develop this police state that makes sure they keep making healthy decisions and don't do things that hurt themselves. So sadly, out of their deep care for their child, many parents go down the road of the wrong solutions. They outsource that it has to do with all external problems or mental health or a genetic thing. So they just need a medical solution or a program and they'll be fixed. Or they go to the control. They just need to control this child and get them to stop. Started out with great love and concern, ended up with very unhealthy solutions. So I want to take you back. Why did the child get into these harmful behaviors, into addiction, into cutting, into eating disorders? What I want you to understand, and some of you may find this hard to hear, this might be new information that you haven't thought of, never even had it explained to you before, is sadly most of the models as to why kids do this today, over the last 25 years, the models that have been presented, we found that they're not that accurate. Often, why the child is doing this today, it goes back to stuff early in their life. And it's just been in the last 25 years that we've really got a clearer and clearer understanding of this. And so if I can explain this to you, it might challenge some of the stuff you believe. You might resist it. It's going to force you to realize that maybe in your parenting we're part of the issue and it's not to blame and say that you're the problem and you're terrible. It's just to help you understand so that you realize that there's a better solution than the ones you're proposing. And we're going to get to that. So if we go back many years ago, and this could even be in infancy, that the child's basic emotional needs, could be their physical needs as well, but their basic emotional needs for acceptance, for connection, for authenticity, for validation, those weren't met properly. And the child didn't know how to get them met. They cried, they did different things, but they still weren't feeling connected. Their basic 12 needs weren't consistently being met, especially their emotional ones. And as a result, in the child, they had conclusion, it must be their fault. It went deeper than that. Nobody cared for them. It was their fault that they were not good enough. And so this whole shame things, I'm not good enough, nobody cares for me, I must be a zero, I must not be lovable, I must not have value. And then it went to I feel alone, I feel abandoned, I don't feel connected to anybody, so I don't feel like I belong anywhere, that I fit in. So you can see a ton of pain there in the child as these subconscious realizations begin to happen, conclusions begin to happen. So then they go, well, then I don't even like myself. I hate parts of me. I hate my body, my personality. I hate my emotional makeup. I wished I was so different. And so they have this ton of emotional pain that they cannot resolve. So it's constant and it's growing. Here's the solutions that they come up with. And there's 3 types of solutions. So number 1, if I have a perfect body and I'm really cute, then people give me positive attention. I get validated. So I need to make sure I have the perfect body. So that can lead to body image, eating disorders, anorexia. But I need to control that part because that's what gives me value. But then others, they go to, one day they're eating ice cream and they go, wow, this feels so good. My emotional pain goes, I got pleasure. My emotional pain has gone away. And so the answer to my emotional pain and to actually feeling some pleasure is ice cream. So now you start an eating disorder or a food addiction, or they find sex, or they find a video game, and it takes them out of their pain for a while. It gives them pleasure, and they go, I think I found the solution to my problems. And then they find drugs and alcohol, and it takes them totally out of their pain, out of their circumstances, and it puts them into pleasure they've never known before. And they go, I have found the perfect solution to all of my problems. My pain is gone. I have pleasure, but then it also makes me feel like I belong. It makes me feel connected to people. It makes me feel more outgoing. Parts of my personality I didn't like disappear. I'm a fun person all of a sudden. This is a wonderful thing. This is what I've been looking for all my life. So what they didn't realize is that what looked like the perfect solution didn't really solve the deep issues underneath, the unmet needs, the pain, the shame that had developed. And though it seemed to provide nothing but positive consequences, it was changing their brain. It was creating behaviors that were beginning to result in negative consequences. But the problem is, those negative consequences didn't show up all in one day, and the positive consequences totally disappear. It was all positive once, no negative, and then very gradually the negative increased, but they were still having lots of positive. Then there's more negative, little less positive, but still lots of positive. Then more and more negative and less positive, but there's still positives, and there was memories of how great it was. And so they hung on, and this gradual process could take years of them still having some positive consequences that keep them going back to that. But then what they don't realize is that it was changing their brain. So that pleasure was affecting the dopamine system, but it was giving way more dopamine than the brain was wired for. And so the brain was adjusting. And so they were getting less pleasure, less dopamine each time. So they were trying for more and more, which was changing the brain more and more until the brain got to a point where it needed that great amount of dopamine to feel normal. But it's happening so gradually that all these other changes are happening before they know it. Their brain is saying, I need this. Even though there's tremendous negative consequences, even though there's great pain. But then what happens if a parent comes along and takes the negative consequences away? The brain goes, oh, no negative consequences, not the greatest positive consequences, but at least there's no negative consequences because somebody keeps taking away. So this isn't a bad deal. I'll just stay here. And that's what happens with enabling, with caretaking. What is the solution that is needed today? Let me begin with, if you are hearing this and you go, I'm one of the ones that's in addiction, making terrible decisions, that is hurting me, hurting those I love, that is really ruining my life. So understand that you were good enough as a child. The lie that you believe that you weren't good enough is a lie. The reason you were neglected or abused, your needs weren't met, wasn't because you weren't good enough. It's because your parents had some issues going on. So get into a program that can start to heal those deep core wounds. Learn how your childhood affected you, how it shaped the way you cope in unhealthy ways. Look at the things your brain developed as solutions that seem to work but aren't working anymore. Then begin learning healthy tools, healthy ways of coping, but how to meet your needs that your parents didn't meet. And know that this could take 1 to 10 years. This is not a quick fix. This is a slow process. But for parents, let me come at this from two directions. Number one, I want to validate how difficult it is to be a parent to a child that is in self-destructive behavior modes, addiction, etc. What I want you to see is the child is doing that because of all that unresolved pain, because of their complex trauma. But as they stay in all of that, they are creating in your family today a complex trauma environment because you don't know what to expect on any given day. You're walking on eggshells every day. You're in fear every day. So you, by having them in your life, are in a complex trauma environment. And your brain is looking for a solution. So your brain can go, because you're in a complex trauma environment, to the 4 F's: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So I want you to understand that the 4 F's often originally start out as positive. So what is a healthy fight? You set boundaries with that child. It's healthy assertive. No, I'm not giving you money. No, we're not going to allow this type of behavior in our house. That's healthy, but that can go unhealthy, and I'll get there in a minute. What's a healthy flight? I am going to avoid unnecessary conflict while I figure out what to do. I'm not going to take their bait and get drawn into their chaos. I will avoid certain things. Freeze. It's like the animal that plays dead for a while they figure out their next move. I am not going to respond here. I am not going to take their bait. And then fawning. I will try to appease them temporarily to calm them down. So we're not going to have a big outburst, but then I'm going to come with a healthy solution. So there are going to be times when I need to placate them, and that can be a healthy fawning. But all of those can go to unhealthy. The longer you're in a complex trauma environment, the more you can go to unhealthy. And so some parents go to full-blown fight mode. They go to the aggressive attempts to control their child, to lay down the law, to be, this is the way it's going to be, and take charge. And you're going to force them to change, and it gets this heavy-duty power. Or you go to explosive rants. You're going to listen to me, and your anger you unleash on them, you threaten them, but then you don't do anything about it. You just explode in anger every time. Or you go to seeing them as the only problem and making it all their fault. And it's just shaming them, judging them, putting it all on them. And so there's this underlying belief in the fight response that says, if I have total power and total control, then I can create this secure, loving environment where they're fixed, everybody is safe, nobody's going to be abandoned. It doesn't work, but it feels like it might. Then some go to full-blown flight mode. And so they go to worrying about everything, micromanaging everything, constant busyness, constant distractions, obsessing. And so they're obsessing in their brain about the problem constantly. So I want you to think about this, because what we found is obsessiveness is left brain dissociation. So I'm going to dissociate by escaping into obsessively thinking about something. That way I don't have to deal with me. I don't have to deal with the problem. I don't have to deal with the pain. I can just be, I'm trying to find a solution. Or they go into flight mode where you avoid the person, you avoid conflict, you avoid talking about the elephant in the room because that might lead to a fight. Many people in flight mode go to passive-aggressive type comments where they take little shots, they pout, they withhold love. as they're in flight mode. They're still not willing to deal with the situation. They're just passive aggressive. Then you can go to freeze mode. And that's now you're isolating. You're not talking to your friends. You're not going out socially. You feel paralyzed. You feel helpless. You can't bring yourself to take action. So you escape into a fantasy world. You just watch the TV for hours. You're afraid of conflict. You're afraid the person will get mad at you. So you avoid everything. You shut down. You're actually afraid to stand up for yourself. You're afraid to stand up for your needs, for what is best. You're unable to enforce a boundary. You just turn inward. But some go to fawn. And fawn is you grovel. You people please. You love bomb your child. You be a doormat. You let them disrespect you, walk all over you, steal from you, lie to you. You clean up after them. You take away their consequences. You do whatever they want you to do. You beg them. You cry. It's just an ongoing groveling type of fawning. You're trying to find safety and love by merging with their demands. What you are saying is their needs. And so you are giving the power to the child. You're becoming the child. They're actually becoming the parent with all the power. But they're acting like the child. And so there's this confusion of roles that has taken place, but you are not willing to be the parent. You are groveling. So it's a subtle attempt. But if I give in to you, can I manipulate you? Will you then do what I want? Can I somehow control you? So you can go to all four of those, try all four, jump from one to the other. But most parents go more and more into those four. What I want you to realize is the more you're going into those four and you're staying in this complex trauma environment, because it's not getting better, you end up just enabling them, you're caretaking them, is you're getting sicker. The situation is getting worse. It's not fixing anything. So what is a healthy response? Number one, recognize that you cannot change them or control them. So you got to give up control. If they're going to change, it's only because they want to change. That is so hard, but so important. Recognize that the more you try to control them, actually the more you usually lead to their rebellion, because they're not going to be controlled by you. So you are actually creating the very thing that you're trying to avoid. You're trying to control them and get them to conform. They're just rebelling more, which is the thing you're trying to prevent, that you fear. And they're going to go worse into their addiction just to pay you back. And so it's making the whole thing more unhealthy, and it's making you more unhealthy. So understand that the fear that's underneath all of this, and face your fear that they're going to die, fear that they're going to hate you, fear that they're going to abandon you. So fear's concern, and this is so important to understand, is short-term safety. I just need to make them happy now. I just need to make them like me now. I just need them to stop doing what they're doing now. That will fix the fear. Maybe short-term, but it's going to create even things worse long-term. So fear usually causes us to make bad decisions. Fourth thing, you have to set boundaries of what is healthy in this family, what is healthy in this relationship, what behaviors will I tolerate, what behaviors will I do, what is your responsibility, what is my responsibility, what are the consequences if you violate a boundary. You got to be willing to draw a line in the sand and enforce it. Don't say this is it, I'm drawing a line in the sand, and then you don't enforce it, you just move the line. So if you don't enforce a boundary, please understand that you're training people on how to treat you. You're training people that your no doesn't mean no. You're training people that they don't have to respect you or your boundaries, that they can walk all over you, that you're not going to stand up for yourself, you're not going to respect yourself, so they don't need to either. But then please take a course like our LIFT program, where you can begin to understand the underlying issues, what's driving them, how you've contributed to the problem, how you can change and become a healthier parent. So to me, the bottom line is damage has been done. Your child can blame you, but until they stop blaming you and accept ownership for their responsibilities, for how they have to change, they have to make good choices, they're never going to change. But you need to work on you. Your best way to help your child is to be willing to look at yourself, to be willing to see the things in you that are unhealthy, that things that were in your family dynamics that were unhealthy, that may have hurt or wounded your child, and change you. This can be so painful, but this can be so wonderful. Because as you grow, as your child senses that, your child sometimes is willing to give it another chance to connect. And your child finally finds the safety and connection they've been longing for all their life. So if you're going through what I've been describing, my heart goes out to you. It's heartbreaking stuff, but it's life for many people. And it's so easy to go about it all wrong. And so I hope this helps. I hope you're willing to give it consideration. If this has been helpful for you, please share, comment, subscribe to our channel. That means so much to us. Thank you again for being with us today. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.